It's time to talk Green Bay Packers. And this is pretty exciting because the Green Bay Packers had a really nice second half of the season. Jordan Love, he really lit it up as a quarterback after waiting his turn all those years behind Aaron Rodgers. Here's my 10 plus minutes with the Green Bay Packers. When last we saw, they upset Dallas, the team I just talked about with Matthew Freeman at Dallas, and they also lost just 24-21 to San Francisco. They had them on the ropes. They actually had a 10-point lead. They missed a short field goal, 41 yards, that would have extended their lead to 7 points midway through the fourth quarter. They were only caught with about a minute and change left in the game. That's when Green Bay went behind, and then Jordan Love threw the interception at the end of the game. But overall, this very, very young team had a very nice 2023, and they're hoping to build on that for 2024. So, as with all the different recaps, I'll be looking at their draft, hits and misses, what needs they still may have, look at the schedule, their divisional and season win outlook, and then some final thoughts for this very intriguing team to take a look at. So, first of all, from the stat sheet, the only thing that stands out that people perhaps do not realize is the fact that special teams matters. We've seen that with the Chargers for years and years. We're seeing that with the Packers, who continually finish bottom three, if not worst in the league in special teams play. And it just takes one or two games to derail a season, or just like we found out in the playoff game, that they could have had that 7 point lead against the 49ers late in that one, but they missed the short field goal. But they also allowed too many punt returns and kick returns. And we've got some new rules coming up that hopefully the Green Bay special team coordinator can handle a little bit better than he's handled in the last few years. Free agency, Aaron Jones is gone. Josh Jacobs is in. Josh Jacobs had a phenomenal 2022, but his yards per carry last year, not as good. I wonder if this will be as seamless a transition. Maybe, maybe not. It's a growing offensive line. They addressed it in the draft. But Josh Jacobs does replace Aaron Jones. Joe Barry is gone. I know a lot of Green Bay Packer fans are excited of the fact that Joe Barry is gone. They replace him with the ex-Boston College head coach, Jeff Hafley. He had 5 years in the NFL. Defensive back coach between 2014 and 2018. Jeff Hafley, he was okay with Boston College. There was a ceiling to how well he did, but now he's in charge of the defense. Be curious to see whether or not that means that the Green Bay Packers can progress a little bit more. One of the things they haven't done in the past is defend the run. They can't get off the field against the better teams in the NFL. So let's see if Jeff can take care of that. Let's look at the draft now. Pull up the slide on the draft. You could see my needs. And again, Green Bay, this is the third year in a row that they've really used the draft to stockpile their roster. This is a very young roster already, and now they've added another 11 draft picks. I personally don't think they needed to draft 11 players. They could have traded up and got higher rated talent, even starting at the beginning. They got a versatile tackle guard in my number one area of need, Jordan Morgan. I think he's a fine player. I think there were better tackles available and better guards available. Maybe not a better versatile player like Jordan Morgan, but I thought they could have traded up and got a better offensive lineman. I do like Cooper. He does do a decent job against the run, according to my notes. I had him as a second round pick. He did fit in the second round, so no problem there. In fact, I think they properly drafted most of the way through. A lot of teams I've been critical about drafting somebody in the second round that had a fourth or fifth round grade, or drafting somebody who didn't have any kind of grade at all. In fact, every one of Green Bay Packers selections, all 11 of them, which is hard to do, were draft worthy on my board somewhere, whether it be the sixth, seventh round or above. They were all draft worthy. They certainly decided to hit the safety spot hard and heavy. Safety is one of my top needs on this list. run stopper ahead of safety, but they really attack safety. It'll be interesting to see what they do with this. Some of the players are better suited for free safety. I think Jonathan Bullard might be able to do that. Some of the players are better suited for strong safety. Maybe they don't have the range to cover at the deep end, but they have the tackling skill. We saw that, for instance, out of the Oregon State safety who has that tackling skill. But above and beyond, they certainly did attack offensive line. And we know, I've said this in the past, the Packers, when they attack a need, they like to double up and they like to triple up sometimes on areas of need. We saw that at cornerback, tight end last year. We're seeing that with offensive line and safety this year. What remains to be seen is whether or not they've selected anybody with special team experience. In terms of looking and putting together my draft recap, none of these people were absolutely proven studs on special teams. Some of them did have some special team experience, but that remains to be seen. And there's only one or two teams per year that I ever list as my top need being special teams. And this is clearly one of them. If Green Bay wants to progress and take the next step, not only ensuring that they make the playoffs year after year, but actually getting somewhere in the playoffs, they need to make sure that their special team play, which is going to be emphasized more than ever with more kick returns, more kicks being returned, they need to address this area. So that's one of the things that's on my list to watch in August and early September. And that's how well the special team unit is performing and whether or not they're making progress in this area. That's how important it is to me. When we look at the schedule layout, they have 5 primetime games, but they are not playing anybody off bye weeks. Yes, they do have a game out of the country, but it's the first game, so they can recover from that. They even have a couple of extra days because it's a Friday game in Brazil against the Philadelphia Eagles. And in fact, they are the designated, I want to say they're the designated road team for that instead they'll still have the 9 home games, but they'll have only 7 true road games. So that's a perk as well. The schedule is difficult early on. Actually, I should say, let me correct that. The schedule is difficult after their bye week. So early on, they're going to play Indy at home, at Tennessee, Minnesota at home, Arizona at home. They catch Houston at home. It's a good pacing to the schedule, and it's not a bad schedule. Their schedule toughens up after the bye week, which happens November 10th. They go to Chicago, and Chicago's improving too. However, Green Bay has really had their number, winning at least 10 straight against Chicago. Then they have that revenge game on 11/24 against San Francisco at home. Short week to play Miami on Thanksgiving. Then they stay on a Thursday and play at Detroit on Thursday Night Football. They stay on the road but have 3 extra days to play at Seattle. They have another primetime game. So we're talking about a lot of primetime games in a row where they host New Orleans on Monday Night Football. Short week to play at cold Minnesota. Of course, Green Bay's used to the cold. And then another team that's used to the cold, another divisional game, Chicago. So it's a little bit of a tricky schedule. All parts better be working at that time. We know there's tape on Jordan Love now. Teams are going to scheme a little bit differently against him. How's the run game going to look without Aaron Jones? That's an issue. And as you'll see in my closing slide, some key points that they need to make in order to make 2024 an even better season than 2023. Looking at their season win total, it's 9.5. It's slanted a little bit to the over. I think, again, it's a function of the fact that Jordan Love played well last year, and it's a function of the fact that the NFC has 9 home games. So 9.5, I think it's a very fair price. On DraftKings, you can find plus 210 to win the division. It's not out of the question that they win the division, but personally, my tip is that I like to play teams to win the division when there's not everybody involved. What I mean is, if it's Philadelphia or Dallas, or is it The Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs? Or is it just two teams? But when you're talking about a tough division like Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Baltimore, when there's more than two teams, in my opinion, involved in the divisional race. And I think there's more than two teams that are potentially involved in the division race here because Chicago got better. I'll talk about Minnesota tomorrow with a special guest, Drew Dinsick. So that'll be interesting. And we know Detroit is the favorite and the deserved favorite. I think 210 is a fair line. And as we get closer to the season, as I see how their special team play is developing, then I might have a feel for wanting to sprinkle a little bit on Green Bay in terms of winning the division. Right now, no play from me for divisional wins or for the season win total. Let's then talk about the final slide. Let me get that up now. Final thoughts. Will the young wide receivers, for example, Watson, who's had severe hamstring problems, can he stay healthy for a full 17 games? Because he could be one of those weapons that develops into one of the superstars in the NFL. They have a lot of complementary wide receiver talent. This team is pretty deep at wide receiver and pretty deep at tight end. But if Watson can develop and stay healthy a little bit more, that's a plus. How will rookie left tackle Morgan fare? Whenever you break in a new person, I know Bakhtiari, he couldn't stay healthy. He was only able to play a few games. So it's not like they had him and they're replacing him with a raw rookie. But usually rookie left tackles, they go through growing pains. Morgan is probably best suited to play guard, but on this team, you might see him at left tackle. I'll be watching that. Will the DC change make a difference? I'm going to be curious about that. And then finally, let's hope that for Green Bay Packer fans, this does not become an issue like the Chargers, where the Chargers wasted so many years of really good offensive and defensive play. Even make the playoffs most of the time. 7 out of 8 years, they didn't make the playoffs despite having playoff worthy stats, except for special teams. Can Green Bay fix their special team problem? I think it's important. I think it's unbelievably important. And it's the area that's holding me back from being bullish on Green Bay at the present time. That's it for my Green Bay preview. Hope you enjoyed that one. All of my videos are available on the YouTube page. Tomorrow, 20 minutes with the Minnesota Vikings and special guest Drew Dinsick. In addition, I will be talking about one other team, probably the Carolina Panthers, who didn't have a very good year last year. Bryce Young didn't have a very good year, but we'll see what happens this coming year for Carolina. So Carolina and Minnesota tomorrow. Thanks again for watching this preview on the Green Bay Packers. And if you want to leave any questions or feedback for me on YouTube, please go ahead and do that. And I will see you tomorrow.